back to working on exploring. The project list has progressed and we are getting ready to hit the road. But before leaving, we decided it was time to rethink the power base setup. This episode is about how to manage not only your weight distribution, but also weight placement in relation to the center of the axles and the center line of the vehicle. The result we needed to achieve was a reduction in moments. Moments is the tendency to produce motion about a point or axis, which occurred a lot traveling on that rough road during our shakedown trip. Stick around for Steve's battery reconfiguration and a detailed review of the new battery location on our F350.
Motivation for this entire video session is because our initial trial of the truck just exhibited some tendency of the truck to lean to the driver's side. I really had to go back and reevaluate what my weights and what my balance problems were, and particularly in light of the fact that it was already leaning to the driver's side and I wanted to put two more objects to the driver's side. So this CAD drawing here is an overhead view of the critical points of the truck. I'm going to give you a quick outline of the problem as I see it. This particular drawing is the front of the vehicle as is at the right hand side. We have the front tires here and here. The rear tires are here and here. The rear overhang on the sloped floor is here. The blue line here is the outline of the flat floor. The white dashed outline here is the bunk hanging over the cab. So that is the truck. The brown items here are the subframe underneath of the floor, and the pink circles with the X in them here are the mounting points where the entire cabin mounts onto the truck frame. So significant about this is when I first started out here, I had a lot of permanent equipment mounted on the driver's side. I have the kitchen cabinet, I have the microwave convection oven in the overhead of the kitchen cabinet, I have a large inverter, and the real crux of the problem here is in these pink boxes here. This is where the 300 pounds of lithium-ion batteries were located. In trying to determine my weight and balance, I had to make some estimates. And I wasn't entirely, I tried to overestimate. And one of the things that I overestimated, I think I overestimated how much the contents of the refrigerator would weigh and how much the contents of the wardrobe would weigh. I think in addition to that is when I built the wardrobe, I was originally contemplating building it as a wooden frame structure with wooden drawers and wooden drawer fronts, which would probably weigh a couple 100 pounds, and I ended up making it out of plastic bins and aluminum angle, which probably weighs about 50 pounds. So my passenger side weights were far less than I had expected, and my driver's side weights were at least, if not more than I expected. So in our first trial run, this battery located here in the front forward storage compartment was, I think, the critical item, and it's the thing that what I discovered that it did was fairly interesting. So it's interesting to note that the weight is located right next to the resilient mount, which is right next to the mounting point to the frame. And this was all intentional. I wanted to distribute this heavy point weight to my truck frame as quickly as possible and not having it contribute to any bending of the habitat. What I found out it actually did was this concentrated weight caused the frame here to dip, because this attachment point is forward of the rear axle and well behind the front axle. The frame between the front and rear axle actually on the driver's side bent lower more than the passenger side did, and that induced the dip or the tilt to the driver's side. So I needed to relieve this, particularly because I still had an air conditioner to mount here and a spare tire to mount here. right now the spare tire is mounted in the center rear, so it's equally balanced, and the air conditioner is not mounted at all. So in order to come to this a very real realization of what I needed to do, I realized that the biggest thing I needed to do was to move the battery to a frame-mounted position and move it towards the center axis of the truck. And so it has been moved and is now located in this location right here, just forward of the rear axle. It runs from the rear axle to the front floor of the camper, and it's very close to the center line. It's only about 11 inches off of the center line. Weight distribution is excellent now. With the air conditioner and the spare tire still to be mounted, I still have some play in order to get me to a final balance. So the initial configuration was almost 1,600 foot-pounds driver, about 1,300 foot-pounds passenger, and I've finally reduced that to about 1,345 foot-pounds driver and about 1,299 foot-pounds passenger, which is almost equal.
Well, it's about 10 o'clock at night. I've just finished this project in front of you here. This is a redo. My first battery reconfiguration was to take the 35 leaf packs out of the Lance Camper flat configuration and put them into a brick, put them into the power bay here. And I did that, and it was absolutely everything I could do to get them in there. Very tight. It was a mess. It worked. It worked fine. The problem was I failed to take into account the fact that it was 300 plus pounds of weight. And so what I have decided to do is I've decided to mount it. Well, the other thing I wanted to do was to take this 300 pounds off of the camper and put it onto the truck frame. The camper is on a pivoting mount. The resilient mounts up front are more than capable of handling this weight, but if they didn't have to, it would be better. And so what I have decided to do is I made this case here where all 35 packs are now in one single long brick. There are essentially no cables at all connecting these batteries together. The packs are all joined by bus bars. You can see the bus bars are all covered by this split loom tubing here. And there's the most negative end is here, and you can see a cable that runs down here to the exit, and the most positive end is down here, and you can see the two red cables here that leave this. So these are the two main power cables. They're two gauge cables capable of about 230 amps combined capacity, continuous duty, which is as much as I will ever imagine that I will need in the camper. The rest of the things that you can see here in the case, there's a fistful of colored wires. There's 8 leads in here that are balanced leads that go to both ends of the battery and to each of the cell separators in between. So coming out of the battery here, I have 2 2-gauge positive, 2 2-gauge negative going through a 250 amp fuse. And I have an umbilical here that contains 16 wires, 8 of which are balanced leads. There are 6 leads for 6 different temperature sensors. I have a temperature sensor on both ends and the center of the pack. And I have 4 heaters. Each heater is about 18 inches down the side of each of these sides. So the 4 heaters will keep the battery warm in the case that the case is below freezing. The case itself is constructed of 3/4 inch steel tubing, 16 gauge steel tubing. And so there's a 3/4 inch wall here that is filled with 3/4 inches of polyisocyanurate insulation. So it's a very insulated box. The top lid here you can see is also insulated. The lid bolts on. One of my complications that you can see here that I've had to deal with is there's a frame cross member that has a stanchion that comes down. So I've had to build this notch into the box so that it will clear the frame important. It's always critically important to understand your weight distribution building a camper. It's more critically important when that camper is mounted on 3 points. The reason being is the weight in the rear, if it's uneven, tends to just twist the camper. the weight in the front tends to twist the frame. And so the load balance throughout the camper must be significantly better than if the camper were originally mounted to the chassis. I'm very, very pleased with the way that it turned out. It's been pretty straightforward to build. It's taken me about 4 days to go through the process of designing and building this. The sides are 30,000 sheet aluminum. The bottom is 60,000 sheet aluminum. The bottom is about the only thing that should be struck by anything. It's pretty unlikely that it's going to be any durability problem. It's pretty well weather protected because it's underneath, but all the seams are sealed with aluminum tape. And I have a weather seal off the top of the lid. The top of the lid is screwed on, so it's got under some pressure too. The whole mounting system for this, you'll be able to see tomorrow as I try to get it in there. But it's just at the height. It'll just barely fit under the lowest points of the truck. So I'll literally set it on the ground and drag it under the vehicle, and then get it up on a jack and jack it up into place. Hopefully get my new mounting cross members constructed tomorrow. But I'm very excited to have it this way. I really wish I would have had the presence of mind to do this. I was stuck on the fact that I wanted to put the batteries and the inverter all in the same compartment, and I lost the sight of, and I did a weight balance. I mean, this is not a mistake of omission. It's a mistake of commission. I made a lot of plans, and when the reality set in, I discovered that it didn't work the way. Everything didn't work the way that I thought it would.
Thank you for joining us and checking out our custom camper. We will be sharing our upcoming travels along with any camper mods here. We enjoy sharing the camper project ideas and providing inspiration for yours. If you like this video, make sure you click the subscribe button and click like to follow our continuous progress and travels in the new rig. We hope to see you out on the road, and good luck with your working and exploring.